Let's bring in our panel now. Sky News contributor James Bolt and the JJ podcast co-host Jamie Johnston. Hi to both of you. Thanks very much for joining me on the show. I want to start over at the ABC, where journalist Laura Tingle has claimed that the Bondi attack on Jews was not motivated by religion. Have a listen.
Absolutely radicalised, they were targeting Jews. It is anti-Semitic, but we are ascribing all sorts of things, right?
Yeah, their actions are not based on their religion.
Look, this is extraordinary, James. The attack was targeted against Jews. An ISIS flag was found on the car. They were allegedly motivated by ISIS. What is the ABC hiding?
I'll be as fair as I can possibly be to Laura and say that what she's trying to say is that in the roots of Islam is not something that can possibly condone what we saw on Sunday. But, I mean, to be so cavalier in those comments and to deny reality. I know this is all alleged now, and I know we have to say the police are alleging that the ISIS flag was at the car, but to so definitively say that religion wasn't something that was impacting here is just ridiculous. And it's time and time again we see ABC people say statements. I mean, Laura Tingle has formed. She once called Australia a racist country, and you just go, there has to be some sort of repercussion internally within the ABC that you can't keep saying these outlandish statements in a supposedly neutral, always fair, taxpayer-funded organisation without repercussions for stuff like that. No,
I completely agree. You're right. I forgot about the Australia as a racist comment. That's a really good point. What is the ABC hiding, Jamie?
It's unbelievable. You know, since Jamie and I started this podcast and an online social media channel, we have an ear to the ground more than ever before. And the public are outraged that our mass media and our politicians don't call this for what it is. So, you know, as you said, an ISIS flag, Islamic terrorism. This was an Islamic terrorist attack. It doesn't matter if there were 2 of them or 50 of them.
Alleged.
Alleged.
We have to say alleged now.
Absolutely.
One charge, yeah.
Yes. So I think the public are fed up with this not being called out for what it is. You know, we understand that all Muslims aren't bad. We understand that all Germans weren't Nazis. But there are a small percentage of them that are radicals. And it has to stop. It has to stop.
But this is what we're talking about, because the majority of Muslims live peacefully in this country and are equally as mortified and horrified as we all are about what's happened. But we are talking about a pocket of radical Islam, and that is the problem, and we have to confront it head on, and it takes both sides of politics to have the guts and the courage to take this head on. Let's talk about Anthony Albanese's failures, James. Hasn't gone back to the Bondi Memorial. OK, you know what? He will probably be met with a bad reception. But shouldn't a leader confront it head on?
I just think Anthony Albanese, and he's got no one but himself to blame, but he actually can't go to that memorial because people are going to boo him. I mean, rightly or wrongly, Scott Morrison not having his hand shaken by those firefighters became such a defining moment of his prime ministership. People really just go, that was the guy that said, I can't hold a hose. Whatever happens when Anthony Albanese next finds himself around a crowd of Jewish people will define, I think, at least this year in his prime ministership and probably his entire prime ministership. I think it'd be such an ugly reaction. You think this morning there was the heckler on Sky News at Richard Marles, our defence minister. People are also heckling Tony Burke, who went to the memorial under the cover of darkness. Now, you need to have a pretty good idea of Australian politics to be able to identify Richard Marles and also Tony Burke at night time. You don't for Anthony Albanese. I think everyone at that vigil is going to know exactly who he is and say exactly what they want to say. And he can't have that. He should. He should be able to go down to that vigil. He should be able to put a reassuring hand around people that are grieving. It is the right thing to do it for a leader. You think of how strong that image would be, but he can't do it, and he's got no one but himself to blame for that. Yeah,
he's got nobody but himself to do it, but he needs to tackle it head on. I mean, you know, John Howard did the same thing when he implemented the gun laws in the wake of Port Arthur. Really what I was about to say. You know, he did the exact same thing. He went and spoke out to farmers who were very, very angry. It takes guts, it takes courage, but that's what you do when you're a leader, Jamie.
100%. You literally took the words out of my mouth. In 1996, John Howard introduced the most far-reaching gun law reforms Australia had ever seen. And coalition MPs were so nervous about losing their seats, and some did. But it took leadership to put in place, implement, not just words, Albanese, implement change. And so I just think that absolutely shows that he's been spineless. And Tony Burke, I mean, I don't think he should be the Home Affairs minister, he's compromised. There's a conflict of interest when he wants to represent his constituents, and more than 25% of his seat have claimed that they follow Islam. So I just think changes have to be made, and now.